A1.
Everything about the resort was A1.
A3. A4.
A5. AA. A and E.
Aardvark. 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 Aardvark.
Ach.
Ugh, the lid won't close.
AB. Aback.
For a moment, I was completely taken aback by her request.
Abacus. Abacus. Abacus.
Abalone. Abalone.
Abandon.
How could she abandon her own child?
We had to abandon the car and walk the rest of the way.
Fearing further attacks, most of the population had abandoned the city.
The game had to be abandoned due to bad weather.
They abandoned their attempt to recapture the castle.
Because of the fog, they abandoned their idea of driving.
They were accused of abandoning their socialist principles.
Rescuers had abandoned all hope of finding any more survivors.
She abandoned herself to grief.
They drank and smoked with reckless abandon.
Abandoned.
Abandon where?
Abase.
Abattoir. Abattoir. Abattoir.
Abea. Abea.
Abbess. 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 Abbey. Abbey. Abbot. Abbot. Abbreviate. Abbreviate.
Information technology is usually abbreviated to IT.
Abbreviated. Abbreviated.
Orders were passed to the commander at the front in an abbreviated form. Orders were passed to the commander at the front in an abbreviated form.
Abbreviation. Abbreviation.
DR is the written abbreviation of doctor. DR is the written abbreviation of doctor.
Abbreviation.
ABC.
Abdicate. Abdicate.
King Alfonso XIII abdicated in favour of his eldest son.
The king was forced to abdicate the throne.
The government has largely abdicated its responsibility in dealing with housing needs.
Abdication. Abdication.
Abdomen.
Acute abdominal pains.
Abdomen. Abduct.
The diplomat was abducted on his way to the airport.
Child abduction.
Abed. Abed. Aberrant. Aberrant.
Aberrant behaviour.
Aberration.
A temporary aberration in U.S. foreign policy.
A mental aberration.
Aberration. Abet. Abet.
Abeyance. Abeyance.
Abhor. Abhor.
I abhor discrimination of any kind.
Abhorrence. Abhorrent. Abhorrent.
The practice of killing animals for food is utterly abhorrent to me.
Abide. Abide.
I can't abide that man. He's so self-satisfied.
You have to abide by the referee's decision.
Abiding.
Phil has a deep and abiding love for his family.
Ability. Ability.
The ability to walk.
The health centre serves all patients, regardless of their ability to pay.
The test measures your mathematical ability.
Mixed ability classes.
Students of average ability.
There are musicians of all abilities. He showed his abilities as a leader.
He completed the job to the best of his ability.
Ability.
Manageability.
Abject.
An abject apology.
Abject.
Abjure.
Ablative.
Ablaze. Ablaze.
Within minutes the whole house was ablaze.
The factory had been set ablaze. A passing pleasure boat with all its lights ablaze. Her yard was ablaze with summer flowers.
His eyes were ablaze with fury.
Able.
I've always wanted to be able to speak Japanese. I'd like to do more gardening, but I never seem able to find the time. I haven't been able to read that report yet.
One of my more able students.
Able. Able.
Washable.
Unbreakable.
Lovable.
Knowledgeable. Comfortable.
Unbelievably.
Able-bodied. Able-bodied.
Every able-bodied man had to fight for his country.
Able seaman. Ablutions. Ablutions. Ably.
She was ably assisted by her team of researchers.
Ably.
She was ably assisted by her team of researchers.
Abnegation. Abnegation.
Abnormal.
Abnormal behavior.
An abnormal level of cholesterol.
My parents thought it was abnormal for a boy to be interested in ballet.
An abnormally high pulse rate. Abnormality.
Tests that can detect genetic abnormalities in the fetus.
Abo.
Aboard.
They finally went aboard the plane.
The plane crashed, killing all 200 people aboard. The boat swayed as he stepped aboard.
Abode.
Welcome to my humble abode.
A homeless person with no fixed abode.
Welcome to my humble abode.
Abolish. Abolish.
Slavery was abolished in the U.S. in the 19th century. Slavery was abolished in the U.S. in the 19th century.
Abolition.
The abolition of the death penalty.
Abolition.
Abolitionist. Abolitionist.
A-bomb.
Abominable. Abominable.
Abominable cruelty.
Mavis behaved abominably.
Abominable snowman. Abominable snowman. Abominate. Abominate. Abomination.
Slavery was an abomination.
Aboriginal.
Aborigine. Abort. Abort.
The rescue mission had to be aborted. The rescue mission had to be aborted.
The disease causes pregnant animals to abort. The disease causes pregnant animals to abort.
Abortion.
She decided to have an abortion.
Anti-abortion campaigners.
Abortionist. Abortionist.
Abortive.
An abortive military coup.
An abortive attempt to reform local government.
Abortive. Abound. Abound.
Rumours abound as to the reasons for his resignation.
Examples of this abound in her book. The forests abound with deer, birds, and squirrels.
About.
A book about politics.
She said something about leaving town.
He lied about his age.
About that car of yours. How much are you selling it for?
What's he on about? What's he on about? What's he on about?
It's about Tommy, Doctor. He's been sick again.
Naturally, my mother wanted to know all about it.
I'm really worried about Jack. She's upset about missing the party.
We spent the whole afternoon walking about town. Books were scattered about the room.
There's something really strange about Liza. What I like about the job is that it's never boring.
What about Jack? We can't just leave him here.
I'm feeling hungry. How about you?
How about a salad for lunch? If we don't do something about it, the problem is going to get worse. If we don't do something about it, the problem is going to get worse.
What can be done about the rising levels of pollution?
Leadership is all about getting your team to cooperate.
It's all about money and who's got the most.
Abound. Abound. About face.
The administration seems to have done a complete about-face on gun control.
About face.
Above.
Our office is above the hairdresser's.
He had a bruise just above his left eye.
I heard a strange noise coming from the room above. The great bird hovered high above our heads.
50 metres above sea level.
Tonight, temperatures should be just above freezing.
Free medical care for pensioners aged 65 and above.
Prize winners must have gained marks of 80% or above.
Above mentioned.
Abracadabra. Abracadabra.
Abrade. Abrade.
Abrasion.
She was treated for cuts and abrasions.
Extra protection against abrasion.
Abrasive.
She was a tough girl with rather an abrasive manner.
Smooth down with a fine abrasive paper.
Abreast.
It's important to keep abreast of the latest developments in computers.
Planes were flying 4 abreast. Planes were flying 4 abreast.
As the car drew abreast of him, Jack suddenly recognized the driver. As the car drew abreast of him, Jack suddenly recognized the driver.
Abridged. Abridged.
Abroad. Abroad.
I've never lived abroad before.
She often goes abroad on business.
We never travelled abroad when we were kids.
A lot of goods are imported from abroad.
The books about Harry Potter have been very popular both at home and abroad.
There were rumors abroad that she was planning to resign.
Abrogate. Abrogate.
Both governments voted to abrogate the treaty.
Abrupt. Abrupt. An abrupt change of plan.
The bus came to an abrupt halt.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be so abrupt.
Abruptly. Abruptly.
She stopped abruptly and looked at him. He spoke abruptly, as if he wanted to avoid the subject.
ABS.
Exercises that improve your legs and abs.
Abs. Abs.
Abscess. Abscond. Abscond.
The boy absconded from a children's home.
He has to convince a judge that he wasn't going to abscond with the money.
Abseil. Abseil.
Absence.
Ms. Layton will be in charge during my absence.
Her work involved repeated absences from home. Her work involved repeated absences from home.
A complete absence of any kind of planning.
In the absence of any evidence, the police had to let Myers go.
Absent.
Students who are regularly absent from school.
Plans to force absent fathers to pay child maintenance.
Local women were conspicuously absent from the meeting. Local women were conspicuously absent from the meeting.
The dull, absent look on her face implied boredom.
Absentee. Absentee ballot. Absenteeism. Absenteeism. Absentee landlord. Absentee landlord. Absentee vote. Absentee vote.
Absentia. Absentia.
Absently. Absently.
Laura gazed absently out of the window.
Absent-minded. Absent-minded.
Grandad's been getting rather absent-minded lately.
Absolute. Absolute.
I have absolute confidence in her.
We don't know with absolute certainty that the project will succeed.
Some of the stuff on TV is absolute rubbish.
How did you do that? You're an absolute genius.
That meal last night cost an absolute fortune.
We need absolute proof that he took the money.
An absolute monarch.
Parents used to have absolute power over their children.
You have an absolute right to refuse medical treatment.
In absolute terms, wages have risen, but not in comparison with the cost of living.
She believed in the importance of moral absolutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He made his reasons for resigning absolutely clear.
Are you absolutely sure?
This cake is absolutely delicious.
The burglars took absolutely everything. Jim knew absolutely nothing about the business when he joined the firm. He has absolutely no experience of marketing.
Do you let your kids travel alone at night? Absolutely not.
Absolute majority. Absolute majority.
Absolute zero.
Absolute zero.
Absolution. Absolution.
Pope Leo gave him absolution.
Absolutism. Absolutism.
Absorb. Absorb.
Plants absorb nutrients from the soil.
Water and salts are absorbed into our bloodstream.
Her capacity to absorb information is amazing.
The movement and noise of the machines absorbed him completely.
Judith lay on the settee, absorbed in her book.
California absorbs many of the illegal immigrants to the U.S.
We were soon absorbed into local village life.
Darker surfaces absorb heat.
The beer industry had absorbed a doubling of federal tax in 1991. Defence spending absorbs almost 20% of the country's wealth.
A well-designed sports shoe should absorb the impact on your feet.
Absorbent. Absorbent.
Absorbent kitchen paper.
Absorbing. Absorbing.
An absorbing hobby.
Absorption. Absorption.
The body's absorption of iron.
The absorption of Soviet immigrants into Israel. The absorption of Soviet immigrants into Israel.
I don't understand James' absorption with military history.
Abstain.
6 countries voted for the change, 5 voted against, and 2 abstained.
Pilots must abstain from alcohol for 24 hours before flying.
Abstemious. Abstemious. Abstention. Abstention.
The draft law was passed by 134 votes to 19, with 5 abstentions.
Fasting and abstention from intoxicating drinks. Abstinence. Abstinence.
Abstract. Abstract. The ability to translate abstract ideas into words.
By the age of 7, children are capable of thinking in abstract terms.
Human beings are the only creatures capable of abstract thought.
The abstract nature of beauty. Talking about crime in the abstract just isn't enough.
Abstracted. Abstracted.
Abstraction. Abstraction.
He's always talking in abstractions.
She rocked the baby gently, gazing in abstraction at the flickering fire.
Abstract noun.
Abstruse.
Maths is a mix of abstruse theory and detailed calculations.
Absurd.
Absurd. It seems quite absurd to expect anyone to drive for 3 hours just for a 20-minute meeting.
It seems an absurd idea.
Some of the stories he tells verge on the absurd.
Duncan laughed at the absurdity of the situation.
Absurdly. Absurdly.
Prices seem absurdly low to Western tourists.
Abter.
Abundance. Abundance.
An abundance of wavy red hair.
One quality the team possessed in abundance was fighting spirit.
Abundant. Abundant.
An abundant supply of fresh water.
Abundant opportunities for well-qualified staff.
Abundantly.
She'd made her feelings toward him abundantly clear.
Melons grow abundantly in this region.
Abuse. Abuse.
Several cases of child abuse.
Many children suffer racial abuse at school.
An independent committee will look into alleged human rights abuses.
Government officials' abuse of power.
A self-monitoring tax system is clearly open to abuse.
Vandalism and verbal abuse directed at old people.
The other driver started hurling abuse at me.
She was sexually abused as a child.
Williams abused his position as mayor to give jobs to his friends.
Morris abused the trust the firm had showed in him. People who abuse the system. The proportion of drinkers who abuse alcohol is actually quite small.
Many soldiers in Belfast are verbally abused.
He came to the help of another driver who was being racially abused by 3 white passengers.
James abused his body for years with heroin and cocaine.
Abusive. Abusive.
Smith denies using abusive language to the referee.
He became abusive, and his wife was injured in the struggle.
Abut. Abut.
12% ABV. 12% ABV.
Abysmal. Abysmal.
The reunion was an abysmal failure. The reunion was an abysmal failure.
Abyss. Abyss.
The country might plunge into the abyss of economic ruin.
At that time, Bosnia was standing on the edge of an abyss.
The gaping abyss between these grand buildings and my own miserable home.
AC.
Acacia. Acacia. Acacia.
Academe. Academe.
Academe.
Academia. Academia.
Academic. Academic.
He possessed no academic qualifications.
A program to raise academic standards.
The study of art as an academic discipline.
He's not very academic.
The question of where we go on holiday is purely academic since we don't have any money.